Bulletin. You're with me, Tandy Wenzimara. Let's take a look at our top stories. Pope Francis describes his upcoming visit to Canada as a penitential pilgrimage. President Jogera to launch the National Youth Service in Neno on Tuesday. Court denies Chinese national Liu Ke bail. And in sports, mixed fortunes in FDH Bank cap. We do have the details to these stories and more. Do stay with us. Let's start with a story that Pope Francis has said his papal trip to Canada next week will be a penitential pilgrimage to bring healing and reconciliation. Greeting the public in St. Peter's Square at the Angelus, the Holy Father noted that on July 24th, God willing, he will begin a 7-day trip to Canada. He then asked for prayers to accompany him on what he called his penitential pilgrimage to Canada to apologize to indigenous groups for abuses inflicted by the Catholic Church. We have more details on this report read by Bridget Monoga.
The Pope is scheduled to travel to the Canadian cities of Edmonton, Quebec City, and Iqaluit from July 24th to 29th. There he will meet members of Canadian Indigenous groups, residential school abuse survivors, and Catholics. During the trip, he is also expected to expand an apology he delivered at the Vatican this past spring for residential school abuse in institutions run by his church. According to the Pope, the stated aim of the schools, which operated between 1931 and 1996, was to assimilate indigenous children. They were run by Christian denominations on behalf of the government, most by the Catholic Church. The schools were at the center of discussions between the Pope and indigenous people at the Vatican in March and April. Recalling the meetings, the Pope said on Sunday he had expressed his pain and solidarity over the evil that they endured. He said, unfortunately, in Canada, many Christians, including some members of religious orders, contributed to the policies of cultural assimilation that in the past gravely damaged native populations in various ways. About 150,000 children were taken from their homes. Many were subjected to physical and sexual abuse in what Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Mission in 2015 called cultural genocide. The Pope said he is about to make a pilgrimage of penance, which he hopes that with the grace of God can contribute to the path of healing and reconciliation that already has been started.
Youth and Sports Minister Richard Banda has announced that the State President Dr. Lazarus Jogera will tomorrow launch the National Youth Service in Neno District, which will help more young people across the country with job opportunities. He made the remarks earlier today in Parliament while making a statement on the status of National Youth Service in Malawi, where he also said the program is relevant as it is crucial to the country's efforts to deal with the rising unemployment among young people. Chimwendo also called for collaborative effort when time comes to lobby for more funding to the National Youth Service. Bridget Monoga was at the Parliament and she now reports.
Presenting his ministerial statement during the first day of the 60th meeting of the 49th session of Parliament, Chimwendo Banda said the National Youth Service will, among other things, address the problems of unemployment that have been affecting the country. He said this is in line with job creation drive which Tonsil-led administration is advocating, and it will train youths in all the 193 constituencies in agribusiness, among others. According to Chimwendo Banda, Ministry of Finance set aside money amounting to 3.5 billion waja to empower unemployed youths to be self-reliant through small-scale businesses. He then advised the youth to venture into commercial farming, saying there is money in agriculture.
The National Youth Service comes at a time when the whole crop is actually facing challenges, and we cannot sit down and wait that one day things are going to get better. We must engage and allow young people to be involved. It's a very good opportunity for these young people, where skills will be strengthened, opportunities made available for young people. And we're not talking about only carpentry, mechanics, as it has been the case in the past. Because one would ask, what's new? Nothing really new, but taking advantage of the availability of these opportunities across the country.
In his remarks, Member of Parliament for Cholo Central, Benny Piri, said that the initiative is ideal but asked the government to target the youth across the country, regardless of political, cultural and religious affiliation.
Let the government look at the industries that they must grow. So, for example, if you say we want to grow the poultry industry, you are fine. But then what measures are you putting in place to make sure that those that you're training in the industry flourish once they finish their education, once they are trained, because you will spend money on them, they go on the market, they can't compete with the players within there. As you're aware, we've got a lot of Indians, we've got a lot of Chinese that are applying their trade within the same industry. So it was very important for the government to look at an industry or a number of industries where they think that if we promote this industry, it would help in the growth of our economy and the GDP at the same time.
The initiative will also see youths being trained in their respective communities, and if they have capacity to do an agribusiness, the program will provide the training, startup capital and linkages to markets. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Bridget Mwanoka.
Chinese national Liu Kei, popularly known as Susu, has been charged with 5 accounts bordering on child trafficking in persons offense and has been denied bail. In his remarks early today, as Kei appeared before him, senior resident magistrate James Mankwazi agreed with the state that the accused is a flight risk and can interfere with ongoing investigations. Susu was brought before senior resident magistrate Mankwazi to be formally charged after he was extradited to Malawi from Zambia over the weekend. We have more details on this report read by Brandon Mwanza.
Earlier today, 5 counts were read before Senior Resident Magistrate James Mankwazi and Regional Prosecution Officer Prescott Mayulipo, saying the charges may increase depending on the outcomes of the investigations. To the counts, Susu agreed to have understood them but asked the court for bail and complained that he had only eaten once since his arrest. On the bail application, the state objected, citing that the accused is a flight risk, justified by how the accused fled Malawi to Zambia, where he was arrested. The state also said that the case has generated utmost public interest and it would be safe for him to be in a police custody, therefore asking the court to commit the accused to Maula prison for the next 15 days while the state concludes investigations. In his ruling, Senior Resident Magistrate Mankwazi agreed that Susu is a flight risk since he has no formal occupation. He also agreed that since investigations are still going on, the accused has the potential to interfere with witnesses. The court has since committed Susu to Maula and granted the state 15 days to conclude the investigations. Following the BBC investigative report that revealed Liu Kei's acts, local civil rights groups including child rights campaigners held protests in Lilongwe demanding justice on the matter and a serious investigation on many untold abuses Malawians continue facing under these foreign nationals. Currently, they are still pushing the Chinese embassy in the country to act on their presented demand to take down the abusive and demeaning videos that Liu Kei posted on the internet, and that the money he made through his act be directed towards the provision of psychosocial support to the exploited children in Jewa, Lilongwe.
The former ruling Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, has poured scorn on the Tonse administration for failing to deliver on its campaign promises, saying it is to the disappointment of many as they had so much confidence to restore the glory of the nation. Speaking during a press briefing which was held at Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika's Page House in Mangoshi, the DPP leadership has said most of the development ventures the Tonse administration is concerned about are projects initiated by the DPP administration under Peter Mutharika's rule. They further called on the Tonse Alliance leadership to tread carefully and stop the hypocritical leadership, saying the DPP is ready to come back. Jacqueline Saidi with details.
During the briefing, the former president, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, who is also leader of the DPP, was on the political offensive against the Tonse administration as he indicated that the current government has failed to deliver on its promises, to the disappointment of many. Mutharika pointed out that most of the development ventures the Tonse administration is bragging about are projects initiated by the DPP administration under his rule.
We as DPP are reorganizing ourselves and we are ready to get back into government. We are developing new policies and a new manifesto. And on behalf of the DPP and myself, I want to urge the government to start governing this country instead of persecuting people.
Pointing on the country's current economic status, DPP spokesperson and parliamentarian Shadrack Namalumba said the situation is affecting the daily lives of the citizenry, emphasizing that the sorry state of the economy and the prices of basic human needs are impacting heavily on lives of people, a situation which he feels will get worse in the next 3 years if nothing is done.
As we speak now, the cost of living has gone up, very much up. When DPP was in government through Your Excellency, and you said it as well, immediately you took over from the PP government. Inflation was also in double digits, but immediately you brought that inflation to around 8%.
On the legal perspective of things, Charles Mhango said the Chakwera administration has failed to implement the constitutional changes he pledged, though they have been in office for 2 years now, saying that the only thing they are doing is to persecute the opposition.
In the rule of law, they are doing nothing. The only thing they are doing is to persecute the opposition. His MCP administration has failed to promote the rule of law. Contrary to his promise, the president maintained the power to appoint the director and he has not removed the presidential immunity. Chimene chikuchidabwisa kwambiri is that the president is interfering in the work of the ACB.
Through the same press briefing, former President Peter Mutharika alleged that the founder of the Democratic Progressive Party, who was his brother, former President Bingwa Mutharika, who died in office, was rather assassinated. He said he knows the people responsible for the death of his brother, only that he does not want to take the matter to court, as such cases are not good for the nation. Late Bingwa Mutharika ruled Malawi from 2004 to 2012. For Luntha Television News in Lilongwe, this is Jacqueline Saidi.
If you just tuned in to Luntha TV, know that you're watching news coming to you live from Bishop Nephi Media Center. But before we proceed, let me recap of our top stories. Pope Francis describes his upcoming visit to Canada as a penitential pilgrimage. President Chakwera to launch the National Youth Service in Neno on Tuesday. Court denies Chinese national Liu Kei bail. And in sports, mixed fortunes in FDH Bank cap. Proceeding with the news, people from hard-to-reach areas in one of the furthest districts of Kalonga can now afford a smile following a new wave of justice delivery through mobile courts. The initiative falls under Timaje Nkhanza Project Evangelical Association of Malawi EAM is implementing in the areas of traditional authorities Mwakawoko, Kyungu and Kilipula. The project is expected to run for 5 years up to the year 2024. Herbert Kadanda is in Kalonga and he reports.
The project mainly focuses on alleviating cases of gender-based violence through providing people with mobile courts that conduct justice delivery processes on their doorsteps in conjunction with the judiciary. On Monday, Kalonga Magistrate Court sat at Ngana Health Center in the district, where it delivered judgments on 5 cases recorded in the area. In an interview, Evangelical Association of Malawi Projects Coordinator Wandia Chigawa said the mobile courts are massive weapons to gender-based violence cases. She said the project is a milestone to justice accessibility by people in these areas.
From the time we started these mobile courts, we've seen change. We've seen people report for the cases. We've seen people receive their justice, and to us, it's a success for the project as a whole.
On his part, Kalonga Magistrate Court Law Clerk Nkwachi Kamanga said the initiative has lessened mobility. He said the courts tackle both criminal and civil cases.
We facilitate a number of cases, especially, but what are familiar in areas we are moving are child maintenance cases, custody, or divorce cases, and any gender-related intimacy. Intimacy, we cannot be precise on that because it depends on how a client has brought the issue.
During the day, Kalonga District First Grade Magistrate Julius Kalambo delivered 5 separate judgments of the 9 cases. The project is being financed by NCA-DCA. For Luntha News in Kalonga, I'm Helbert Katanda.
Member of Parliament for Balaga North constituency, Anthony Tony Ngalande, has disclosed that he is in talks with the Minister of Agriculture to provide farm inputs to people in his constituency to start irrigation. Making the remarks over the weekend at Kwisa Ground when he hosted people for his 45th birthday luncheon, Ngalande noted that people in Malaga face hunger every year due to heavy and erratic rains during growing season, and that the only solution to the hunger situation is encouraging the people of Balaga irrigation farming. We have more details on this report filed by Andrew Nandoro and read in our studios by Phyllis Chizombe.
Most households in Balaga will have little or no food by end of October, a situation which will be escalated with the rising prices of maize on the market. Random interviews conducted by Luntha in Balaga North constituency revealed that currently some people are depending on pigeon peas. It is with this background that Member of Parliament for the North constituency, Anthony Tony Ngalande, has thought of engaging the Ministry of Agriculture spiced up by Black Missionaries Band alongside Anthony Makondeta.
Phyllis Chizombe reading our report found by Andrew Nandolo. Now in sports, there were mixed fortunes for big clubs as some failed to qualify for the round of 16 of the FDH Bank Cup. Some big football clubs in the country made the headlines over the weekend after being booted out of the FDH Bank Cup round of 32. Defending champion Silver Strikers suffered a shocking 5-4 post-match penalty shootout defeat in the hands of Super League debutant Salima Sugar Dedza Dinos as mighty Waka Waka Tigers were knocked out by Nyasa Big Bullets Reserve. We have more details on this report filed by King Major Kamendo.
There was some mixed fortunes for some big clubs in the country as some have been booted out of the FDH Bank Cup. Desert Dynamo's Salima Sugar continued their giant-killing instincts as they booted out FDH Bank holders Silver Strikers following a 5-4 victory on post-match penalties at jam-packed Desert Stadium on Saturday. After the win, the mood was terrific in Desert as fans celebrated the famous victory. It was a triumph to remember for the TNM Super League Rockets who have turned Desert Stadium into fortress after 3 consecutive wins. The match ended goalless in regulation time and it had to be decided through penalty shootouts, and Henry Messenger was the hero of the day when he scored the winning penalty for the Dynamos, but Patrick Macheso was the villain for Silver Strikers having missed his spot kick. And elsewhere at Kamuzu Stadium, Maite Mukuru Wanderers also advanced to the round of 16 after knocking out Kamuzu Barracks Reserve 4-1 on post-match penalties. The match ended 2-2 in regulation time. Changalame Barracks booked their prize in the round of 16 after they dumped the TNM Super League giants Mafco FC with a 2-1 win at Baraka Stadium. Amidu Mapira and Emmanuel Allan scored for Changalame Barracks, whereas Yohane Malunga netted the consolation goal for Salima-based Soldiers. Chitipa United also defeated the TNM Super League side TN Stars 1-0 at Kalonga ground, whereas Kwendeni Hammers beat Airborne Rangers 2-1 at Chitowe Stadium. And Zeriet Commerce scored a brace as Kamuzu Barracks also booked their round of 16 slot after beating 2-0 MDF Marine at Civil Stadium. Competition, 10-man Nyasa Big Bullets came from behind to beat Sebo Farming 3-1 at Mulanje Park Stadium on Sunday afternoon and progressed to the last 16 of the FDH Bank competition. It was the second competitive meeting between the two sides in the space of 15 days, with the visitors looking to secure a second consecutive victory over Zulu-based outfits. And at the Civil Stadium, Muhammad Bison scored the only goal to inspire Civil Service United to a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Baka City to progress to the next round of the competition. And Nyasa Big Bullets reserve side produced an upset as they defeated Maite Waka Waka Tigers 3-2 on post-match penalties. After passing through the round of 32, now the teams will be battling it out in the round of 16, where Nyasa Big Bullets will be taking on Moyale Barracks. Extreme FC will play Kadona Stars. Kamuzu Barracks will host Civil Service United, as Kalonga United will be taking on Changalume Barracks. Igwendeni Hammers will take on Lompe United or Blue Eagles, as Kawinga FC will be taking on Chitipa United. Red Lions will host Nyasa Big Bullets Reserve, as Desert Dynamos will be at Desert Stadium taking on Maite Mukulu Wanderers. For Luntha News, this is King Major Kamwendo.
Now in international news, security forces fired tear gas as Sudanese protesters marched in the capital Khartoum on Sunday